Welcome to the West Ham Boys. Thank you for joining me on a Friday morning. A couple of hours before the Europa League last 16 draw. In a couple of hours, we're going to know who we've got in our next European game. And dependent on your mood and your level of enthusiasm, you're either really looking forward to it or you're absolutely dreading it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Another European journey, wherever it may be. Let's make the most of it for as long as it lasts. It may be only for another 2 games. Who knows? You know, West Ham United, we could go all the way, couldn't we? But anyway, I'm going to talk about the draw. I'm going to talk about some of the teams that, the teams that we could be facing, and also talk a little bit about multi ownership of football clubs and how that impacts on competitions like the Europa League and Champions League, etc. Because, of course, we do have a person as part of the West Ham board who also has a vested interest in another club who's through to the last 16. And that, of course, is Daniel Kretinsky. But first of all, let's start. This is Oliver, by the way. Say hello, Oliver. Look at him. Anyway, let's start with the draw. So, the draw features 16 teams, of course. The 8 group stage winners from the Europa League group stage are seeded and will face the knockout round playoff winners who were confirmed just the other day on Thursday night. Of course, the seeded teams are as follows. Atalanta from Italy, Brighton, Bayer Leverkusen from Germany, Liverpool, Rangers, from Scotland, of course, Slavia Prague from Czech Republic, Villarreal from Spain, and of course, our very own West Ham United. So, which teams went through in the games on Thursday? Benfica from Portugal, Freiburg from Germany, Marseille from France, Milan from Italy, Roma from Italy, Qarabag from Azerbaijan, Sparta Prague from the Czech Republic, and Sporting Lisbon from Portugal. So some interesting teams there. I mean, I don't know if you've got a preference. It probably would be nice to be drawn against Freiburg, given that we weren't allowed to travel there during the group stage games. There's a couple of Portuguese sides there. Would be nice. Portugal's rather lovely. Lisbon, great for its seafood. And of course, you know, the juicy one, Milan or Roma in Italy, would also be quite interesting. Then you've got Marseille, of course, and Sparta Prague. But of course, we know what's going to happen. We'll probably be drawn against Qarabag in Azerbaijan. So what do we need to know? Can the teams from the same country face each other in the Europa League round of 16? No. Which means that there are a number of clubs that will not play against each other. Atalanta, for example, won't be able to face either Milan or Roma. Bayer Leverkusen will not be able to face Freiburg. And Slavia Prague can't play against Sparta Prague. So is the European League round of 16 over 2 legs? Well, I'm sure you already know. Ties take place over 2 legs with the group winners at home in the second leg. Any tie that's level after 180 minutes will go to extra time, irrespective of the number of goals each team has scored home and away. If the teams still can't be separated, then it goes to extra time, and then it goes to a penalty shootout. And for those of you who probably followed some of the games on Thursday, you know that Roma was against Feyenoord. That went all the way where Roma won on penalties in the end. So the first leg is scheduled for the 7th of March, not far away. And the second leg will be a week later on the 14th. So therefore, our first game is going to be away because we're a seeded team. And the return leg will be at the London Stadium on the 14th of March. And I'm pretty certain that is very likely to be a bit of a sellout. And the winners of the 8 ties will advance, of course, to the quarterfinals with a draw for that round and the semi-final as well, scheduled for the 15th of March. The losers are out of the competition, of course. I mean, pretty obvious, UEFA, isn't it? That if you lose, you're out. And what else? The draw dates, the quarterfinals and semi-finals, as I've said, are going to be on the 15th of March, which is the day after the second leg of the round of 16 games. Quarterfinals fixtures will take place on the 11th and the 18th of April. The semi-final fixture will take place on the 2nd and the 9th of May. And of course, the final is on the 22nd of May, 4 days after my birthday in Dublin. So if I managed to celebrate my birthday last year by winning a European trophy, it'd be wonderful to do it yet again. So what are the teams that we've got coming up against us? Let's start in alphabetical order. These are the 8 teams that we could play against. Benfica, they play in the Estadio da Luz in Lisbon, capacity of over 64,500. Their past history, champions 38 times, Portuguese Cup winners 26 times, and in their past, they've won the European Cup twice as well. And they're first in their league. They're managed by Roger Schmidt, who was a league winner with Red Bull Salzburg back in 13-14 season, and with Benfica last season. Their top goal scorer is Rafa, who's a Portuguese international. Now, their recent form, by the way, is that they've won 4 and drawn 2 games. So they're on pretty decent form at the moment. Next up, Freiburg. Well, we've played them already, haven't we? From Germany, they play at the Europa Park Stadion with a capacity of 34,700. Their current status in the league is 8th. They're managed by Kretinsky'S, and their top goal scorer is Vincenzo Grifo with 10 goals this season. He's also an Italian international. Next up, Marseille from France. They play at the Stade Vélodrome with over 67,000 capacity. 9-time champions of the French League, 10 times champions of the French Cup. They've won the European Cup once as well, but they're not doing that great at the moment. They're doing all right, but a bit like West Ham, they're 9th in their league at the moment. They're managed by Jean-Louis Gasset, who's just been appointed. Gattuso was sacked just the other day. And their top goal scorer is someone we know very well, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who scored 16 goals already this season. Then we got AC Milan. And I know a lot of fans would love to play a team like AC Milan in this competition. Of course, from Italy, playing at the San Siro, capacity of over 75,000. They've been champions of the Serie A 19 times in their history. Cup winners, Italian Cup winners, Coppa Italia 5 times. They've been European Cup, Champions League winners 7 times. They won the Cup Winners' Cup twice, and they're currently 3rd in Serie A. They're managed by Stefano Pioli, who won the league with Milan in 21-22 season. And another person that we know very well, their top goal scorer is Olivier Giroud with 13 goals. And it's funny that, because I remember when Giroud was about to leave Chelsea and Arsenal, etc., and there was always a link to him. And I always suggested that, he's too old to be playing for West Ham United. It proved me wrong. He's still smashing in the goals in the Italian league. Next up, another Italian club, Roma. Stadio Olimpico. They've got a capacity of over 70,000. They've been champions 3 times, Italian Cup winners 9 times, and they were the first winners of the Europa Conference League last season. The season before last. And they currently sit 6th in Serie A. Their manager is Daniele De Rossi, again, recently appointed. And their top goal scorer is yet another person that we know very well, Romelu Lukaku, on 16 goals. Next up, and you know it's going to be this club that we're going to get, don't you? Qarabag from Azerbaijan. Now, look, they play at the Azasan Arena with a capacity of only 5,800. But they played at other stadiums when they played either in the Champions League or in the Europa League. And primarily, they played in the Tofik Baramov Republic Stadium, which holds a capacity of 31,200 when they play in the Europa League. So I'm thinking, quite likely, if we do draw them, they'll be playing this game in that particular stadium with a capacity of 31,000. They've been champions of Azerbaijani League 10 times, Azerbaijani Cup 7 times, and it won't surprise you to hear that they're currently league leaders as well. They're managed by Gerben Gubanov or Gerben Gubanov. 9 league titles with this club and 5 domestic cups. And their top goal scorer is Brazilian Juninho on 21 goals so far this season. Their recent form, 1-3, lost 2, drawn 1. I forgot to mention that with some of the other clubs, so do forgive me. Let me just go back and I'll do them all again. Benfica's recent form, 1-4, lost none, drawn 2. Freiburg's recent form, not great. 1-1, lost 3, drawn 1. Marseille's recent form, again, not great. 1-1, lost 2, drawn 3. Milan's recent form, bit mixed, bit better. 1-3, lost 1, drawn 2. Roma's recent form is pretty decent. 1-4, only lost 1 and drawn 1. And the Azerbaijani team's recent form, 1-3, lost 2 and drawn 1. So let's move on to Sparta Prague, Czech Republic, of course. They play in the Epic Arena, a capacity of 19,416. And that's probably going to be the smallest capacity, given that Qarabag will be able to move to a bigger stadium. Of all the teams that we could be facing, it's likely that if we do draw against Sparta Prague, it'll be the smallest capacity for any of the away games. They're 37 times champions of the Czech Republic League, and they've been winners of the Czech Cup 15 times, and they currently lie 3rd in the league. They're managed by Brian Prisk, and his honours, he won the Danish League a few years back, and he won the Czech League with Sparta Prague last season. Their top goal scorer is Lukas Haraslin on 13 goals. He's a Slovakian international. In their form, do forgive me, they've won 5 and only lost 1 of their recent games. And Sporting Lisbon, Portugal, playing in the Estadio José Alvalade, a capacity of over 50,000, 19 times Portuguese champions, 17 times Portuguese Cup winners, 1 time Cup winners, and they currently lie 2nd in the Portuguese league. Their manager is someone that's a lot of West Ham fans would very much like to have at the club, Ruben Amorim. He's a League Cup winner and 2 times Portuguese Cup winner as well. And their top goal scorer is ex-commentary player Victor Gyökeres, who's on 29 goals this season. He's a Swedish international. And their recent form is 1-5, lost none, and drawn 1. So those are the teams that we could be facing. But what if it is Sparta Prague that we end up drawing against? Now, look, multiple club ownership is happening quite a bit more often around the globe. And both FIFA and UEFA are trying to find a solution for this ever-growing issue. There are many examples where there are dual ownerships of football clubs who may find themselves competing against each other, especially in European competitions. The UEFA multi-club rules are designed to maintain sporting integrity and prevent conflicts of interest. Strictly speaking, UEFA prohibits 2 clubs owned by the same entity to be competing against each other in a European competition. But clearly, that's not the case. With multi-club ownerships becoming more common, these co or part owners must demonstrate that they do not hold enough power in both clubs who compete against each other, and they've got to demonstrate that they're not able to influence any outcomes of a game should the 2 clubs find themselves in competition. Daniel Kretinsky, he's got 27% stake in West Ham, as we all know. He cannot unduly influence any of the games between Sparta Prague and West Ham in the Europa League. And he has to have had clearance from UEFA's financial controlling body. There are other clubs in the same predicament, Red Bull owned clubs. There are, for example, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who has recently become co-owner of Man United and also has a stake in French club Nice. But in order to not break any UEFA rules, he has had to step back from a club role in the French club. And this may be why we always keep hearing about Daniel Kretinsky not being too much involved in West Ham. And this may be why Kretinsky doesn't get involved in the footballing side of things and keeps his stake under 30%. Because with a 27% stake, it means that you don't have that much leverage, so to speak, in the club that you have a shareholding. Kretinsky would have demonstrated that he does not have simultaneous power in the management, administration, and sporting performances of the clubs that he owns. And that means, again, he doesn't have a decisive control or influence. Whilst this continues, it'd be deemed by UEFA that there would not be a conflict of interest, even though West Ham could draw Sparta Prague in the last 16 of this group stage. Or if we both go through, we might be drawn against each other in the next round as well. So it is a conflict in some ways, but West Ham United, or certainly Daniel Kretinsky, must have demonstrated to UEFA that he doesn't have an overall controlling interest in either club, which means he can't unduly influence the outcome and the result. So even if we do get Sparta Prague in the next round, there's nothing to worry about. We're not going to be kicked out of the competition. It's happening quite regularly and happening more often. That's it. Very brief, short, sharp, and sweet. Let's see who we get. I'm not going to be able to do a live show of the rounds of the draw itself, but I will be back later to talk about the club that we're drawn against and give you a little bit more detail. Stay tuned, and I'll see you all soon.